put the Zoom link in chat. There's Brian. What up, dude?
Hey, what's going on, man?
And Sasha.
Hey, everybody. You got your notes handy?
Notes. Where we're going, we don't need notes.
Fine. Be that way.
Sounds like Ben.
Yeah. And Mike's late as usual.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Here comes Mike.
Hey.
What's up?
Well, this is awkward.
what do you mean?
Well, much like Power Rangers, we too are limited by the podcast Sentai Grid Ranger footage, and this is a Pink Ranger-centric episode. Sorry?
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, hey, Sasha, you want to know about the amazing world of podcast Sentai Grid Ranger?
Sorry, Brian, but if I'm not recording, I'm going to use my evening to, in no particular order, read comics, write about comics, and watch movies about comics. That's a bit more my speed.
Okay. I guess I'll go play with my Bandai stuff then. All right.
Cool.
There you go. Plenty of opportunities. We'll catch you guys later.
Yeah, see you later, nerds.
Later.
Can't start a revolution without picking a fight tonight. We're not a substitution. I'm drawing the line this time. Do you believe me now?
And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another edition of Voices from the Grid. I'm Michael Lindenbaum, and as always, I'm joined with one of our co-hosts in this episode. It is Mr. Pink Ranger, Mr. Ben Taylor.
Hello.
It's
I'm
bad.
Mr. Pink Ranger.
So today, we really start kicking off doing a lot of the episodes from season one. We just did our season premiere.
Sadly, you're not going to hear Sasha or Brian today unless I start swearing a lot and Brian has to get them to re-record bits.
Yep. So we're going to be doing high five, teamwork, and a pressing engagement on this episode. So with that, let's hop right into it with the quick run through of
Give it
high
its
five.
official title. Come on.
Okay, everybody's favorite segment in my mind, I hope, the quick run through of high five. So we start at the youth center. Jason is climbing the rope, but Trini is super nervous for Jason. And then poor timing by Billy as Jason lands on him. Bulk and Skull show up, and who are the bullies again?
Yeah.
Rita now plotting to capture the Rangers. Billy shows the Rangers their new communicators, which we saw in episode 1 when Billy and Jason were both wearing them.
Yeah.
And they transported the command center where Alpha tries acting gangster. Doesn't do it well. Back at Rita's, Finster makes a new monster called Bones. Rita tells Babu to send the time device to trap the Rangers in a time warp. At the command center, the Rangers are sent to investigate, and not very discreetly, they're noticed by the putties, and then they do a putty fight. Billy gets some putties to follow him up the mountain, which freaks out Trini, and Billy drops his morpher. Trini working on conquering her fears while the others are surrounded. Billy and Trini help the others, and an awesome triple team attack by Jason, Zach, and Kim. I actually do like the triple team attack they do. Bones
I
is
just have it referred to as the Tower of Doom in my notes.
I like that. Bones is unleashed and the Rangers morph into action, and the Rangers get transported to another dimension. And how did Jason know about the Blade Bastards? Because nobody told him about it. The Power Rangers destroy Bones in his dimension, and now Rita sends another monster that grabs Jason. Jason calls for his Zord and takes on the monster by himself and just owns him with the T-Rex Zord. Back at the juice bar, Ernie is talking about the Power Rangers, and Billy gives everyone their new and improved communicators. And that is High Five.
Okay, so for me, my notes. High Five, aka only 2 of the 5 actually get high.
Technically 3?
No.
Because
Well,
Jason technically went high to get into his
get
Zord.
in the Megazord. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, apparently, Trini is afraid of heights.
I didn't know
Now,
that.
correct me if I'm wrong. Weren't they in the Megazord in Day of the Dumpster?
I believe so, yes.
Which is way high off the ground.
Yeah, and probably higher than a mountain, probably.
Yeah, and she doesn't react to it at all.
Yeah.
Remember what I said about the Yellow Ranger being a cipher?
Yeah.
Yeah. I really did quite enjoy the little non-Balkan Skull comedy bit with Jason and Billy, where Jason kind of hooks his legs around Billy's shoulders and they swing around. Also, it's quite interesting. In the opening establishing shot, Trini is quite clearly leading like a Tai Chi class, right?
And he just walks away
And then
from
the
it.
moment Jason starts climbing the thing, she just wanders off. And you can't see the Tai Chi class anywhere.
Whoops.
When Bulk and Skull show up, Kim says to Bulk, "Why don't you go back to the ooze you came from?" Confirming my Ivan Ooze theory that he was referenced in season 1 because ooze. And again, we talked about this in the pilot with Sasha and Brian in Day of the Dumpster, but and this will change in one of the future episodes we talk about in this episode of Voices from the Grid. But like in this episode, Bulk and Skull are bullies, right? They're just posturing to try and measure up to these 5 perfect kids, right?
Yeah.
It's Bulk going, well, if Jason can climb the rope, I need to be able to climb the rope, right? And they end up laughing at them, and as you say, who are the bullies again?
Yeah, and here are the things, we'll talk about in a couple other episodes that we're going to discuss. You do see Bulk and Skull legitimately bully.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a couple episodes. Yeah.
So,
but like initially, Bulk and Skull are just presented as normal teenagers trying to be just as good as the perfect kids, right?
Yep.
Trying to impress the girls, kind of thing. And the Rangers just laugh at them for trying. It's good that later on that they're written as non-sympathetic characters, but and again, just to point out to everyone, the reason why I'm saying that is my experience with Power Rangers has only been over the last 12 months of real time. So I didn't watch a whole lot of this stuff as a kid. So I'm coming to this fresh as an adult. So then we cut to the moon and Rita's there. And she reveals that apparently once upon a time, she trapped Zordon in a time warp. And I'm like, can we hear more about that, please? It would be really, really interesting. But nothing ever comes of it, I'm guessing. So, then in this episode's "That's Not How Science Works" moment, Billy talks technobabble, all of which have nothing to do with sound communication.
whoops.
But it's to do with communicators. And Kim gives us our first more phenomenal right at this point. It's quite interesting.
Yeah.
The word I absolutely hate. And but it becomes a thing. Definitely becomes a thing. And I know that we absolutely roast Alpha 6 in Turbo for being like this vaguely racist sort of dumb stereotype.
It sounding like a New Yorker in a way.
Right. But then I'd forgotten about this in High Five, where like the Power Rangers shop and he calls them homies and homegirls. And later takes dance lessons from Zach. And we'll get to that in another episode. Now we have an Alpha quote unquote comedy moment. There's been a lot of comedy moments in this show. So far, we're 5 minutes into the episode, which ran what?
19 minutes and 58 seconds.
Okay. We're 5 minutes in. We've already had 3 significant comedy sections. Apparently, what I quite like here is that this is quite clearly a thing in the Sentai that's absolutely not referenced in Power Rangers whatsoever. But the time device is the space shuttle that the two dudes that let Rita out of the dumpster.
Yeah.
Right? That's clearly what it was in the Sentai, right?
Yeah, and
Here,
but there's also
looks like a space shuttle.
but there's actually more to it in the Sentai than that.
Yeah, I'm sure there is.
Because in the first episode, it's actually not just the 2 adults that go up, it's 2 children. And the thing with Bandora, who is Rita for us over here in the States, actually has a huge despise or huge hatred for children. And in the actual space shuttle that is sent back down in the Sentai, actually has the children in there. But before even that happens, there's actually a moment where the Jew Rangers show up to try to save the children because it's actually miniaturized with a ton thing or something that is with a rope on it that's about to be cut to drop onto it to kill the children inside the space shuttle. So like in the Sentai, there's so much more that happens with that space shuttle because of what they do, what their storyline is over there. I forgot how much darker the Sentai is compared to the Power Rangers we got over here.
There's also that then leads to what might have been my favorite moment of the entire episode, which is Rita like kind of admiring the spread of uncooked monsters and like kind of being very motherly on them. She's like, "Oh, you cute, good, you cute." It was lovely. I loved it. So they send down this obviously remote controlled car with a space shuttle slapped to the top. And for some reason, people could see it on a TV. Like people are watching it in like a shop window and like freaking out. And I'm like, it could just be a remote control car. There's no.
Well, I don't know. There is a Japan flag on that spaceship.
But still, like.
Yeah, no, I always thought that was weird, but I guess that was just their way of trying to build suspense.
Oh, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
But like, why would it be on the TV? Is my point. Like, why would just an out of control remote control
RC spaceship
like if someone crashes their drone now, we don't get a massive report on CNN, do we?
No.
So. Then they're in the command center, and Billy describes the alarms as extreme audio oscillation. Eventually they'll stop having Billy talk like this, right? And I wonder if it's more it was more a conscious choice because they wanted people to understand what he was saying, or if the writers ran out of big words. Then they head to the rocks, and there's the big putty fight, right? And let's see. Jason orders Trini and Billy to break off and draw some of the putties away, right?
Yeah.
And then there's a moment where Trini and Billy split up. And Trini starts hiding. And I'm like, why? You're a super good fighter. Just whoop him. Just, you know what? Just like...
Just lay the smack down on him.
Just open up that can of whoop ass.
I love that. I love that. Next thing you know, you hear Stone Cold Trini Austin just walking through.
And that's the bottom line, because a vaguely racist 90s stereotype said so.
I was thinking that you would go like, and that's the bottom line because the Yellow Ranger said so, but okay, we'll go with that too. But
I don't get why she hides. She's a super good fighter. She should be like laying him out. And we see her do that in like a couple episodes. So
and I think, and we'll talk more about this with the other two episodes that we're going to discuss.
Yeah.
A big thing that also keep in mind is that a lot of these episodes were filmed out of order.
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't know what was, because for all we know, they could have shot all the juice bar scenes for all the episodes in one day and then shot a bunch of the outdoor stuff another day. And so like they could have done like also multiple episodes done in one day just because. And so the Rangers may not have known what they were doing for any particular episode. And then when they go to editing, it just gets put in this weird way. So when we see Trini kind of like hiding a little bit, you know, maybe
no,
that
she doesn't hide a little bit. She full on pulls like the Hobbits and the Ringwraith thing where she's like backed up and they're like looming over her.
Oh yeah, no, and but the thing is that like we don't know. Maybe that was supposed to be meant for another episode, but then through editing they went, no, this actually works better here. So who knows? Because like as we've discussed, the first season
Is a mess.
Is a mess just because of the fact that they didn't know it was going to get as big as it was, or as it did, and they didn't really have a game plan. They just wanted to see how it would go.
Yeah.
That's why we ended up with 60 episodes, because that's how popular it got.
The whole thing about Trini having a fear of heights comes back. I'd actually forgotten about this, even though it happened about 7 minutes ago. Also, she like freaks out because Billy's like, "It's too high, Billy. You're gonna get hurt." It's literally just a hill. Like it's not even a sheer rock face. It's a hill. Billy drops his morpher. That happens a lot in seasons 1 through 3. Lots of people like just lose their morpher. I can see why like Zeo, Turbo, In Space, Lightspeed, Lost Galaxy all went to wrist-mounted morphers because you can't drop them.
Yep. Well, for Turbo, you could drop the key.
But you can't drop the morpher.
Yeah.
So there's been this big thing about Trini having this fear of heights, right? And then she just climbs the rocks anyway. It doesn't even seem to be a whole lot of effort. There's just one line where she's like, "I can do it." And then she does it. She's like, "I can do the thing." And then she does the thing. And it's like, there's no... Like, it doesn't cut back to her being like, oh, I don't want to do the thing, but I'm in the middle of doing the thing, so I've got to keep doing the thing. I've got to go say, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just, it didn't even need to be in there at all. It's time you could have spent doing more Unmorph fighting or Zord fight or whatever. I don't know. Trini climbs up the rocks, does the thing, and then at the top, Billy says that was Morphitudinal. I'm guessing that Morphitudinal is Morphinominal's younger sibling, and forgotten just as quickly as well because people latched onto Morphinominal but not to Morphitudinal, I guess. And then we have the Spinning Tower of Doom.
But before that, before you get the Spinning Tower of Doom, which is still a great triple team move, Billy and Trini do like possibly the weakest breakup of the putties around Jason, Zach, and Kim.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Because like the putties are literally circled around them, and they just come. All right, we're breaking up the ring around the Rosie game right now.
Yeah,
It was like, what?
it was just like one big group hug.
And they broke it up.
The putties just want to give hugs, man. They just
And then
wanna give
occasionally,
hugs.
and occasionally kidnap here and there, but mostly hugs.
Via hugs.
Yeah, via hugs.
Just
But
wanna
yeah,
give hugs, man.
but the Spinning Tower of Doom was I like that triple T maneuver.
I thought it was stupid, but so stupid it was funny. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah. But it's also something we commonly don't get to see also.
Yeah.
It's like the act like, because you always talk about how you really like the Unmorph fights. This is, in my mind, a special moment of an Unmorph fight because the three of them are getting together to actually work together to take out a bunch of putties at the same time.
it's just not what I want from unmorphed fighting.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's a cool move and all, right? But it just doesn't. It's not what I want. What I want is I want to see the characters individually kicking ass.
Yeah.
And yeah, sure, you can do like a combined move here or there, but this was like, it was the Power Rangers equivalent of that moment in a wrestling match where someone's going to jump to the outside and all of the other people in the match have to stand there waiting to catch them.
Yep.
Right? It just didn't look good to me.
Yeah.
Right.
So the Tower of Doom.
Yeah. The putty fight concludes at 12 minutes and 45 minutes to 45 seconds into the episode. I make a note that there's about 7 minutes left in the episode on the Netflix version that I watched. Right? The Rangers haven't gone anywhere near the time warp yet or met the monster.
Yep. But that's because we need to have the moment in the viewing globe with Zordon.
Yeah. So, speaking of, Zordon knows what Bones can do. He knows about the running. He knows about the jumping. He knows about the laser vision. He knows
About
all of that.
The disappearing body.
Yeah. How? Finster just made this monster. Like, he made it up. You see him doing it earlier in the episode. It's not even one that was in the cookbook.
And this kind of comes down to the theory of that we've discussed on a previous recording of an episode that will air later, where maybe because of when they come onto Earth, Zordon is able to like analyze them.
But that's the problem. It's inconsistent because he can do it sometimes and he can't do it at others.
Yeah, because like we know about like the cookbook in general for Finster, and that actually ties into the Sentai because of how the Zordon character is portrayed in the Sentai, because he's actually a wizard.
Mm-hmm.
He's not in a tube. So, and he actually has a copy of the book physically in the Sentai of like the monsters and stuff.
Zordon coins the phrase "it's morphin time." First, it's morphing time. One thing I will say I absolutely loved about the 3 episodes we're talking about today is that he calls Zack Zachary. Zordon calls him Zachary. I love that. I don't know why. He doesn't call Billy William. He calls Zack Zachary for some reason. I really enjoyed that.
And does that continue on up until the voice change? The voice actor change?
I can't remember.
That's probably something to look into later on.
After having been built up for 14 minutes of a 19-minute episode, Bones is beaten in about 45 seconds.
With the Blade Blasters.
Yeah.
That I don't even know if they even knew that they had them.
And then Rita's like, send a giant to Earth. And he appears downtown. And you can see Rita's palace appear on a building right behind him.
Yeah. And that's because of how the Sentai was.
Yeah. And then in the very next shot, they're in a quarry miles away. Squat and Babu set off a bomb to destroy the time device and trap the Rangers inside. But all it does is blow the Rangers out of the dimension. Jason calls the Dinozords, but only the T-Rex shows up. This is quite interesting. This is back when it was the Jason show. I'm currently in the middle of watching. I'm starting to watch SPD, and there's been a little bit of. This is the first time I'm getting exasperated with it being the Red Ranger show. I want to start learning about the other Rangers. And I felt that a little bit here. I was like, why couldn't the other Rangers have some fun? They fought the monster too. And then we get back to the juice bar, and they are presented with their fully working communicators. And Kim says the phrase, "That's so 90s." And I just have, yes. Yes, it is, Kim.
Yes.
And that's the end of my notes for High Five.
All right.
Where only 2 of them actually get high.
So with that, as I mentioned earlier, this episode was 19 minutes and 58 seconds and got an IMDb score of a 6.9.
As I will say forever, I don't know who's rating these things, but they sure as heck wearing some rose-tinted glasses.
Next up, we have Teamwork, and once again, it is time for everyone's favorite segment in my mind, the quick run-through of Teamwork. And so we begin at Angel Grove High School, and Kim and Trini are promoting the Pollution Club, and we meet Mr. Kaplan for the very first time. And now Rita plots to use pollution to destroy the Earth. And then the others bail on helping Kim and Trini because they got other things to do. Bulk and Skull do some bullying with a friend, but Kim ultimately embarrasses them all. Kim and Trini arrive at the dump, and it's very eerie feeling. And they get attacked by putties, and Zack is teaching Alpha to dance via hip-hop keto. Billy and Jason transport to the command center to be told by Zordon of the Kim and Trini situation. Rita then sends down a Minotaur monster, and Billy, Zack, and Jason morph into action. And then she sends Goldar down as well, and now Kim and Trini morph into action. Rita makes Minotaur grow, which then does Zord time, which interestingly enough, Kim is the only one who does not get to call her Zord.
I noticed that too.
Yeah. Kim attacks Goldar and his putties. the Zords individually holding up well against the Minotaur. However, Zordon forces the Rangers to retreat, even though they're winning, and gives the Rangers their new power weapons, which, if you watch the Sentai, it takes a lot more than just being handed to them. Back in action, they take it to the Minotaur. They create the Power Blaster, and game over for him. Back at school, the Rangers almost get in trouble, but luck helps them as they clean everything up before Mr. Kaplan returns in a speedy, I don't want to say montage, but a speed up.
Yeah, it's a time
scene.
lapse.
Yeah, time lapse scene. And that, in a time of 19 minutes and 34 seconds, was teamwork. I did the time there because I know you're always going to ask for the time.
I don't think I do reference the time in this one.
Well, you tend to do from other recordings that we've done.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to put it after the run through for you, so you can
That's
go.
fair.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Teamwork,
So-
bro. Teamwork.
So, teamwork, aka wheel of morality, turn, turn, turn. Show us the lesson that we should learn. The episode opens on Kim and Trini, as you covered, that are getting people to try and sign a petition, signed to shut down, quote unquote, the dump site. Now, notice they don't say what kind of dump site. And it's not that easy to just shut down a dump site, right? It's quite clearly that we're in our third episode now, and we are establishing the social issues themes of Power Rangers at this point. I think the note I have here is they're just one the more you know away from a G.I. Joe episode at this point. And at least, as I made fun of in the title, at least the Animaniacs had the good taste to spin a wheel. Right? That's Kaplan's first appearance. But the seventh appearance of his toupee. Rita claims she's responsible for the pollution and that it will be used to destroy the Earth. This is a plot that will come up at least 4 more times in season 1 alone. I think I'm covering at least one of those episodes. Trini and Kim ask the male Rangers to come with them to present the petition, right? So bear in mind, this is a petition. This is a petition that has no official backing, no official power to it. Just a bunch of high school kids have signed it. And by the looks of the amount of people that actually stopped to sign it, it's about 12 people. Right? And they do a really nice little thing here, right? Where all of the male Rangers say they can't help because they're busy, but they make Zach sound like he's making his up, right? Because Jason's like, I've got a karate class to teach. I can't leave my students in the lurch. But he's like, we're the yearbook club or whatever it was. I can't remember what it was. And then Zach's like, yeah, and I've got to go talk to Alpha. Yeah. I thought it was a really nice touch, especially since it turns out later to actually be true.
That he wasn't lying.
Yeah. And Trini comments that it sure would be good if they could work as a team, leading to the title of the episode, I guess.
Yep.
Bulk and Skull appear with their infrequently seen female friend. I think she's got a name, but I don't know what it is. It's never said in the show.
Yeah.
I mean, we could Google it, but I'm just not going to bother. And they're actually seen as bullies here. I quite liked that, the fact that they're actually showing Bulk and Skull bullying people that aren't the Rangers. And then the three of them are defeated by some incredibly slow-moving gymnastics. Because Kim just does like one backflip. And then Bulk and Skull freak out because they hug each other. And people are surprised that producers were homophobic. Huh. Trini and Kim then take their petition to this dump site and just wander in. There's no security. There's no one actually working there. They just wander in, right? Now, bear in mind, this is a dump site that is so bad, they claim to hate the smell of it, that it's clearly been there a while. It clearly has all kinds of just chemicals sitting around, right? And they just wander in. Trini's supposed to be clever enough to translate Billy, and then she does dumb stuff like this. Right?
Yep.
I don't get that personally, but maybe just me. Something I noticed, and this is something I noticed in High Five and now again here, is early in the season, things move much slower in an episode, right? More time is taken for establishing shots. More time is taken to build up the... Like, in this specifically, there's a lot of time spent to just images of Trini and Kim walking through the dump site, dealing with the horror of the dump site and the suspense that's built when they're alone, right? And you'll see, and in High Five, you saw there's a set of stock footage that Power Rangers uses a lot of Alpha's hand pushing buttons, right?
Yeah.
And just the finger. And you see the first version of that in High Five, and it is way, way slower than you see it anywhere else. Whenever it's used later, it's really quick, and he's pushing buttons really, really quickly. But in High Five, it's much, much slower. And it's very interesting how, as the season progresses, everything speeds up, but they tell the same amount of story. It's like it doesn't need to speed up, you know?
Yeah. Oh, and real quick, I did a quick look for you. So I just looked up Bulk and Skull in general. And so in early episodes, as with the second pilot, Bulk and Skull had accomplices. A female punk is with them in teamwork and food fight, and then a black male punk in food fight as well. Early scripts for season 1 show the female punk was meant to be a recurring character named Sharky. She was written into scripts up into The Trouble with Shell Shock. The name was differently spelled and was already in use on Fox Kids. So they actually had it planned originally when they're doing the auditions to actually have 4 to 5 punk kid characters. So that's the answer to that question there.
That's cool.
And then apparently they're also going to do a pilot a spin-off show for Bulk and Skull after Zeo.
Yeah, that was the plan, right? And
things
didn't work out.
Yeah, something. Yeah, I didn't look too deep into it. I just saw like a quick little note on that.
I think someone said they released like a video pilot thing that didn't sell very well, even though it wasn't marketed at all. And then, I don't know. Anyway. But yeah, the point about things being a bit slower in season 1, earlier in season 1, it's also still quite clear that the Rangers are still finding their feet because they're still kind of like bricking themselves whenever putties show up. About 10 episodes from now, they'll just be like, putties. That's cute.
But what's also funny is that like like later in the show season, we find out about like these super putties. They're already fighting the super putties when they're morphed.
Yep.
It's
Zach wasn't lying about his meeting with Alpha. Alpha wants dance lessons. What a pivotal scene. Absolutely nothing this time could have been spent on better. No, sir. No unmorphed fighting going on somewhere nearby that could have developed much more personality for the two characters involved. Nope. Just a full minute dance that was absolutely pivotal to the episode. That was sarcasm. So they get the alarm, and Zordon just out of nowhere says, "Jason, Billy, teleport here immediately," and they do. No time to get out of view of people, no time to hide, no time to like say to the various groups that we knew they were with, "Hang on a minute, I'll be right back." They just teleport instantly. What if they were seen?
so much for secrecy.
And it was there's something, and I know this wasn't technically intentional, right? But when Zach, Billy, and Jason were in the command center, and Zordon was basically like, "Look, the girls need your help," something felt really weird about that to me, right? Almost like, the boys have to run and rescue the girls. It's 2020, man. Girls should be able to handle themselves. I know that's not how it ends up, and that the girls do get themselves out of their own issues with the putties, but it grabbed me the wrong way a little bit. Just like, ugh. It's 2020, man. Girls can kick ass on their own.
Well, at the time, that was 1993.
I'm talking about now, dude.
Oh, yeah, now, yeah.
Bear in mind, I didn't watch it in 1993. I'm watching it in 2020.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, when you look back at it in hindsight, you can go like, that's probably, not the right way to go about things in that one. So.
Interesting note is when the lads morph, they morph out of order.
Yeah,
usually it's Mastodon all the way through to Tyrannosaurus, but they switched Billy and Zach in this morphing order for some reason. Just thought that would be an interesting note.
Yep.
But they haul off to fight the Minotaur. I'm not sure what Minotaurs have got to do with pollution. Minotaurs belong in mazes. I'm not sure if that was a thing in the Sentai. Who knows? Again, then the girls morph and they go and they give Goldar a what seeing to, but all five of them get quite readily handled. They get beat up. Zordon muses in the command center. If now is the time, I should tell them about the power weapons, Alpha. Why not just tell them about the power weapons before? I've never understood this. If a weapon is ready, we're not going to use it yet thing when you're in a war, right? I don't get that.
Yeah,
right.
And not only that, but the other thing is that like you got to the part where the Minotaur is grown, right?
Just about to, yeah.
Yeah. Get to that and we'll talk for a moment there.
All right. So you have a very prolonged Zord summoning sequence to pad out the episode where they all get to separately summon their Zords, except Kim. The pterodactyl just launches. And then there's a full log-on sequence as well, with them all saying things as they log on. So there's a very prolonged Zord summoning sequence to pad out the runtime. They all get to summon their individual Zords, except Kimberly, as you noted.
Yep.
The pterodactyl just launches. You get to see all of the Zords running for a bit, doing their Zordy thing. And then there's a full log-on sequence as well, with each of them saying something and touching the two handles in their Zord cockpit. And then they'll get to do a bit of a fight in their unmerged Zord form.
Which was honestly kind of nice to be able to see
Yeah.
the other Zords, especially after Jason getting the opportunity to do the fight with just the T-Rex or the previous episode.
Including the one and only time I can ever remember the saber-toothed tiger actually biting something.
Yeah. And I also really liked the fact that like you saw like Kim and the pterodactyl taking out Goldar and the
Like,
putties.
strafing Goldar and the putties.
Yeah, that was really nice.
And then they merge. Is there an official name for the mode of the Megazord where they're like all formed together and it's got all the guns?
I believe that is considered tank mode.
Tank mode. Okay. So they morph into tank mode and they are whooping on the Minotaur.
Yeah.
Like they are kicking its butt.
But Zordon must have him
But
retreat.
then Alpha says the line, the Zords are having no effect on the Minotaur. So Zordon pulls the Power Rangers back and gives them the power weapons, right? And then they beam out. And while they're beaming out, while they're in teleport, they're talking to each other. Pardon me. They talk about, like, if they can't kill the thing with their weapons alone, they'll have to bring them together, right? Side note, why is the Minotaur small again?
I got no idea.
Someone let the air out of it.
Like, but the other thing is like they were doing a damn good job against the Minotaur and their swords.
Where did Goldar go? Why is Rita an idiot? If the Zords are having no effect on the Minotaur, A, try forming the actual Megazord and chopping it with a sword rather than just shooting it with I-beams that you don't get the power up that lets you use the I-beams till next episode, I would like to point out. And just giving up. And if it doesn't work then, why does Rita make the Minotaur small again? Just have it stay big and rule the earth. I don't. Rita's an idiot. That won't come up again this season. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Say no more.
Alpha said the Zords had no effect, but the power weapons did. Therefore, power weapons greater than Zords? Question mark. We get our first merging of the power weapons in the all too familiar order of
The weapons.
Power Axe, Power Bow, Power Daggers,
Power Lance.
Power Lance, Power Sword, Zorch, right? And then the Rangers clean up a hallway. And that's kind of it. And you're like, great. Now, why didn't the Zords affect the Minotaur again? It's a Minotaur. There's nothing special about it, other than it's got a shield. Big whoop. But yeah, that's my
teamwork.
take on Teamwork.
All right, and Teamwork had an IMDb score of a 7.3 out of 10.
No, it didn't. You're all liars.
Which Ben and I looked this up too when Ben was doing the thing. Apparently, like, so how IMDb does it, they take like all these critic reviews, kind of like way Metacritic works. And there's only like one user review, and the one user review was a 10 out of 10. But so, which now brings us to our final episode of this episode, a pressing engagement. And it's that time for everyone's favorite segment in my mind for this episode, the quick run through, which we begin at the youth center as Jason is going for a bench press record with Ernie doing the counting for him. And Ernie loses count thanks to the distraction by Kim, because small chat kills. Back at it, Jason tries again, and Kim again, this time, is blowing up a big bubble with her bubble gum, and Zach skateboards right into her, causing a massive distraction, and Jason failing to reach the goal once again. Rita plots against Jason with Goldar, and Finster introduces King Spinks. Zach apologizing to both Kim and Jason for the bubblegum incident. Bulk and Skull overhear them talking and try to bully Jason only to be embarrassed. Zordon pages Jason, Zach, and Kim, and they morph into action. And those are super putties that we see there, not regular putties that they're fighting. King Spinks sends both Kim and Zach back to the youth center, where they both land on the gymnastics balance beam. Jason fights the Sphinx in one-on-one combat, and Rita makes Sphinx and Goldar grow. Zach and Kim go to Billy and Trini to let them know Jason is in trouble. They transport to the command center, and then Zordon sends the power crystals to Jason. Jason gets the crystals, and the others join him, and it's Zord time. They take a beating in Megazord mode, and an interesting cockpit view there, which we will not actually see ever again because it's an overhead view of the cockpit, but they get the power sword and dispatch Sphinx, and Goldar retreats. Back at the youth center, Jason breaks the bench press record, and with a little help from his friends. And Bulk looks to regain his record, but gets a face full of cake instead. And that was a pressing engagement in 20 minutes and 15 seconds.
So for me, this is pressing engagement, aka Jason Lee Scott's very bad, no good day. Because the whole theme of the episode is Jason is just having a bad day. So like I said, to start off the episode, when you take out the interference by Kim, right? He does over 2,000 reps of bench presses with a non-significant amount of weight involved, right? I have been told that this is bad for you. You should rest between rep sets. Otherwise, your muscles get irreparably damaged. Kim's bubble that she blows is quite clearly a balloon. She's even holding it. Zach is skateboarding inside. That never ends badly. Once again, the bad guys turn to Finster to come up with the monster for the week, proving that Finster's the actual brains of the operations on the bad guys' side, which we've talked about a lot. And then you get to the bit where Jason and Zach are sitting watching Kim do her gymnastics, right? There's something about the way Jason looks at Kim early in the season before Tommy shows up that you can see why people thought they were an item in the Turbo movie, right? There's just something about the way he looks at her. And I don't know whether it's intentional or whether it was just Austin St. John and Amy Jo Johnson or whatever, but there's just the way he's looking at her. Even Zach like gets a bit tongue tied when she comes over, right? Because he has no problem apologizing to Jason about the bubblegum incident, but like when he and Kim are talking about it, Zach, the usual Lothario of the group, is tripping over his own words. And it's kind of interesting.
Yep.
Bulk and Skull show up and taunt Jason about not breaking the record. It is worth noting at this point, it's Bulk that set the record of 1,010 reps.
Yep.
Right? Later on in the season, you'll see him easily picking up Billy in one hand, Skull in one arm, other kids, and just like spinning them around. How has no one tapped Bulk for a football team? He would rule on the offensive line. He would ruin opposing teams.
Well, there is a football episode at the end of the season.
Right, but it doesn't. He should be excellent at football. He should be phenomenal at football. Like, he's stronger than Jason. Think about that. This athletic marvel that we're given as Jason, this specimen, and a kid that looks like Bulk can set a record that Jason has a problem breaking. Think about that.
So what you're saying is that like in wrestling talk, because we do that podcast too,
Yeah.
Jason is what Vince McMahon looks for.
Yeah.
And the specimen, whereas Bulk is what AEW utilizes.
To put
Talent-wise.
it a better way, Jason's John Cena, Bulk's Kevin Owens.
That's actually much better, yeah.
For you wrestling fans out there.
Yep.
Um,
That also enjoyed listening to us on Awesomenania.
but he's not. But do you see what I mean? Like, Bulk has talents, right? But you don't. It should. It blows my mind that they just casually throw in that Bulk is the person that set the bench press record, right? And they never bring up the fact that Bulk is basically super strong, right? Look at Jason's physique and look at Bulk.
Yep.
Anyway, I'll stop belaboring that point. Jason, Zach, and Kim get beamed out to go fight King Sphinx. Why do we not call Billy and Trini?
Because this is probably something Zordon feels that three of them can handle at this time.
Sure, even though King Sphinx is a known monster from Rita, right? So Zordon should be able to know what he does, right?
Yep.
And they're going to need more than just 3 Rangers to not get blown away.
Yep.
Anyway, the Sphinx literally blows 2 of the Rangers away, isolating Jason. 1, why does nobody at the juice bar react to Zach and Kim just appearing on a balance beam?
That's a great question.
2, why don't they just leave and teleport back?
Better question.
3, why does Jason being isolated make communication impossible, Alpha?
I am Groot.
We see here one of the things that is notable about Day of the Dumpster, right? Because we brought this up with the last episode with the communicators. Is Day of the Dumpster actually used a lot of footage that was filmed for other episodes.
Yep.
So the stuff with Billy and Jason at the beginning, where we see the communicators in the karate class, was actually filmed for Dark Warrior, right? All of the Zord fight footage and a lot of the fight footage in Day of the Dumpster was actually taken from this episode, just with the King Sphinx cut out.
Yeah.
Which is,
And here's the other thing, and we obviously got to bring this up because, you know, we're not stupid.
Yeah.
We know. Yeah, it's also based on how the Sentai does it. So if they only have 3 of the Rangers fighting King Sphinx in the
Yeah.
Sentai footage,
Yeah.
that's what you're going to see in Power Rangers. Like, we're not stupid. We know that.
I bring this up because we get
Yeah.
to see Alpha with his teddy bear again.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other reason I bring it up is because it's like, you know, they probably could have done a better story angle
Mhm.
as to explaining why Jason they got cut off from the communications.
Just-
maybe
or
maybe
just
when
a-
they maybe when Sphinx sent away Kim and Zach,
Yeah.
you know, he was able to put up a portal around them
Yeah.
that like
a shield
that
or
cut, like a
something.
shield or something that cut off the communicate. They could have said that, you know, or
Or
communicated.
just
that
a
better.
line saying we can't reach Billy and Kim right now. Billy and Trini right now. They're doing an important experiment
Yeah.
because they're in Billy's lab, right? Like,
Yeah.
So Goldar, who we see is there, is just standing there watching. If he got involved way earlier, Jason's dead. He's just dead.
And one of the interesting things is that because it's shown in the Sentai, Squad and Babu are actually technically there watching in the stands.
Yeah, they're watching from the top. They're taunting. They're throwing stuff.
Yeah.
So Zach and Kimberly run to Billy's lab, where Billy and Trini are. One, they made a big deal last episode about having communicators. Just call them. 2, they have site-to-site teleportation. 3, why did Zordon not just call them? 4, why do they teleport to the command center and not straight to Jason? Just we get our first mention of the morphing grid because Alpha is told to adjust the morphing grid.
Yep.
I wonder where the voices are. And then Alpha sends the power crystals to Jason, quote unquote, through his Zord. But they pop out of his sword. I'm wondering if that was just an ADR foible.
I think that might have been an ADR foible because I know in the Sentai,
Yeah.
which I ironically watched the night before we recorded this episode, the power sword is actually supposed to be able to detect the power crystals.
Yeah, which is why he has to dig them up. in
Yeah,
the
and
episode.
the sword will actually, like, lightning will hit the sword and then it will start glowing in the Sentai and it'll actually guide him to where
Yeah.
the actual crystals are. So kind of cool concept, not gonna lie.
So Alpha sends the crystals to Jason through his sword. And then he uses the crystals to summon the Rangers. Again, I ask the question, why not just teleport there?
Because I think it might have been just because of the whole dimensional thing.
But there was no dimensional thing.
Yeah.
They were on Earth.
Yeah.
Again,
Something that could have been explained
constrained
a
by
lot better.
Sentai footage. I understand that. But that's not what this show is about. Right?
like if you really want to do that, like, at least explain it better
Yeah.
so it at least works in a consistent manner.
I have a line that, like, when he was blown away, say that they established a force field that you can't teleport through, so that Jason has to summon them, right?
Yeah, that's all you need. You just need that line.
Then we get For some reason, Jason is faced with two giant enemies, but doesn't think to call his Zord until the other four Rangers show up. Weird. We get a full-blown slow-motion Zord summoning sequence, complete with log-ons. And then we get the crystal sequence added as well now, where they like plug the crystals in. And the apparently the crystals are what allows them to summon the Megazord.
Yep.
Even though they've used the Megazord before.
Yeah, and I think that's because I missed a couple episodes these last few days before recording this episode because of Shout Factory TV doing like for an hour where they do 2 episodes of Jew Ranger.
Yeah.
They actually don't use the Megazord until this episode, which is episode 6 for them.
Yeah.
So
also the crystals are what allowed them to do the I-beams while in tank mode, even though they just got the crystals and shot the I-beams last episode. It's called, quote unquote, using the crystal power, I believe Jason calls it. Then there's a Zord fight. And it's just not a notable Zord fight, really. The Rangers finally use the power sword. And then we get, I do believe it says Rangers use power sword. It's super effective. And then Jason.
what is this, a Pokemon battle?
Sure, it might as well be, right? Jason breaks the record and Bulk gets covered in cake.
Yep.
And made fun of again. And who are the bullies?
Yep. So one of the most interesting things is, and you and I were talking about this earlier, is that King Sphinx is actually one of the biggest monsters that was actually promoted both merchandise-wide and promotional-wise for the show. So, like, obviously, like, Goldar, Finster, Babu, Squat, and Rita were always promoted. But when it came to actual monsters, it was King Sphinx.
He was also in the unaired pilot as well.
I believe, yeah, that came out, that got released much later. I believe it was
the bowling alley pilot, as people call it.
Yeah, that aired, I believe, at Power Morphicon 2007, which was its first official release.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and we'll eventually go and do that episode down the road, just not right away.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like, but King Sphinx was like a big promotional tool, and like actually, I found a picture in my Facebook memories that I took, and it's actually of like the figurine set.
Mm-hmm.
And like on the top, it's the 6 Rangers, and then on the bottom, it is Finster, Goldar, Squat, Babu, and King Sphinx. Not Rita, but King Sphinx. So, and that told you how popular, I guess, the character, the monster was look-wise until Pudgy Pig came into play.
We got a lot of good firsts this episode.
Yep.
We got our first Morphin Grid mention. We got our first like multi-morph episode. We get our first multiple scenes of Bulk and Skull. Until now, it's just been one scene. We get our first time that they actually killed something with the power sword, because they tried to use it in the pilot, but Goldar ran away.
Yep.
Right. Or in Day of the Dumpster, where I shouldn't call it the pilot because it's not the pilot; it's Day of the Dumpster.
Yep.
Anything else?
First time we actually see the power crystals
Right.
officially.
Is this the first time we see the super putties?
Unofficially,
Like the dark, like the suits at least.
yeah, this is like the first. Actually, we may have seen them also in Day of the Dumpster. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Maybe.
Because like when they morph, yeah, actually I think we do see them in Day of the Dumpster because they're on the roof doing the fight with Goldar, which was really funny because I remember watching it back, and then I'm watching, like the Sentai because of Shout Factory, and I'm like, they had super putties the entire time, but
we also get this is the first time we get a close up of
The cockpit.
Walter Jones's hand
Yeah,
with
because
his
he's,
missing middle finger.
Yep.
When he's holding the power crystal.
yeah, and then what was it? It was also the first time and only time we actually got the unique look into the cockpit, where they did the overhead look rather than like the in the cockpit or from the back of the cockpit view. And it actually, if you looked at it too, you would also notice that where Jason was, it wasn't the Tyrannosaurus emblem.
It was the Dragonzord emblem.
It was the Dragonzord emblem.
Yep.
And it was kind of cool because you could also see like the emblems for the other Rangers in there too. And it had like similar setups to like the way the front of the cockpit was. And that was really, it was cool, but you don't get to see it again, which is a shame.
That is a shame. But yeah, that was my notes on Pressing Engagement.
Which on IMDb got a 6.9 out of 10.
No, it didn't. You're all liars.
Liars. So with that, Ben, we are at the end. Where can the people find you on the social medias?
You can find me at Twitter on
At Bob T. Goldfish.
You can find me every 2 weeks over at
txhthockey.com/awesomemania.
doing Voices from the Grid's sister show, Awesome Mania, where Mike and I talk about all the things that happen in the wacky world of pro wrestling.
Yep.
You can also find my words every 2 weeks on a Monday at
txhthockey.com/VFTG,
where I am, as I have mentioned, my journey through Power Rangers has been going on for about a year now. And recently I started writing a bunch of columns where I'm journaling my thoughts on each season. Not going to lie to you, these episodes are pre-recorded, so I don't know which one's coming out next or if I'm even still doing them because I've got to the Neo Saban era and quit, as I've been assured that I'm going to be tempted to. But they're a lot of fun to write, and I hope you enjoy reading them. And you can also find me and my good friend, Mr. N&J Jordan Johnson, over at
twitch.tv/321_TV.
doing the video game thing. We tweet when we go live, and we play video games with all and sundry that stop by off of our friends. And we will communicate with you in the chat there. Mike, what about you?
You can find me on the Twitters at the Lindenbaum75, Facebook at facebook.com/X75Productions. And of course, everything for me is also on the website of txhthockey.com, and for the show specifically /VFTG Voices from the Grid. It's our call letters. I have a lot of stuff that has call letters. TXHT, VFTG.
Difference being that VFTG isn't then followed by Voices from the Grid.
Yeah.
Whereas THXT Hockey is like a complete tautology.
Well, I had to do that.
I understand why you
Yeah.
did it. I'm just making fun of you.
I know. But yeah, depending on when this airs, we will probably actually we most likely will be somewhere in the NHL playoffs on the website as well, because that started on August 1st. And yeah, that's everything where you can find me. So Ben, let's take it out.
Take it out. In that case, I will say yes, indeed, it is me, Ben Taylor, here to say, guys, gals, and online pals, in the words of the 16th President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln, be excellent to each other and party on non-gender-specific honorifics.
And until our next episode, grab your morphers and may the power protect you.
Peace!